Heads up.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm General Retired Rick Hillier, and I'm here with a group of folks and in some manner representing a large number of people that might include 3 provincial governments, several more who have not yet announced, at least 16,000 Canadians who have signed our petition, and a mass of veterans who support the idea, the initiative of an independent review board established by the Government of Canada to relook the honors and awards that were awarded in Afghanistan. We think that it's appropriate and it's overdue, and we are going to commend to the government this afternoon through Madame Rochefort here, who's going to present the petition E6661 in the House of Commons and recommend a unanimous consent motion to establish that independent review board. We think that with the passage of time, the opportunity to look back to garner the richness of detail that occurred during the specific fights on the battlefield in Afghanistan, to understand exactly what occurred in greater detail, and to have a feel for the battle based on the testimony, if you will, of the battle buddies who were there with specific individuals at that time. And we center our story around the story of Private Jess Larochelle, a beautiful young Canadian, a baby-faced soldier who went off to serve in Afghanistan, and on the 14th of October on the 14th of October in 2006 in Strong Point Centre, he moved with his platoon, a platoon that should have been 3 sections of soldiers, each section with 8 soldiers, was now down to 2 sections, and some other pieces from the company and battalion headquarters moved into Strong Point Centre, and their aim was to establish security, to assist in the building of a paved road that would allow the Afghans in the Kandahar province to be able to move their crops, regular legal crops such as watermelons and figs and all of those things that they grew so well, be able to move them to a market and turn their economy into a legal economy away from the drug economy that was prevalent at the time. They moved in there just about noon hour and established the area, and then realized that an attack by the Taliban was coming in. The intelligence sources were pretty precise. It was going to be a big and a determined attack. The Master Corporal Jeremy LeBlanc, who was commanding the section, said, "We've got responsibility for that mud tower right here. We don't have enough troops to put 2 up there or 3, and that is our tactics. We never try to put 1 person where we are going to be somewhat isolated. We always want 2 or 3. But he said, we don't have enough troops to do that right now. We're so short-handed. Do I have a volunteer?" And baby-faced soldier Jess Larochelle stuck his hand up and said, "I'll go do it." He went into the tower, and a few minutes after he was there, the Taliban launched an attack. Somewhere up to 40 fighters attacking with a specific focus on that tower where Jess was. Jess had a machine gun, the C7, with about 800 rounds of ammunition, and brought fire to bear on the attack, taking out the attackers, breaking up their tactics, and actually keeping them away from Strong Point Centre itself. He got down to just less than 100 rounds left and kept that as a last-ditch defense. The attack is still coming in. But right at the front part of that defense, a rocket-propelled grenade, probably fired from an RPG-7, a shoulder-carried, shoulder-launched rocket-propelled grenade launcher, came in through one of the outlets in the tower, impacted on the back wall, and detonated. Jess was thrown back against the wall by the force of that explosion inside a confined space and was knocked unconscious. He told me several years ago, he said, "Sir, when I came to, I thought it was a Star Wars movie." He said, "I could see lights and colors and flashes and bangs, and I realized the fight was still on and I had to get back into it. So I got back on the machine gun, fired a few more rounds, and then realized, yes, he did need to leave some as a last-ditch defense. So he started picking up M72 rocket launchers, which were lying on the floor in that tower. He had about 15 of them. Every soldier, every veteran understands what the M72 is. It's a cardboard tube, a rocket launcher. You pop the caps off the end of it. You extend the tube to about a yard. You put it on your shoulder. You pull the safety on it. The sights pop up, and you fire it. And you have to be really close and accurate to be able to hit something. Jess started firing one at a time at individual Taliban attackers and ended up breaking up the attack. After about an hour and a half to 2 hours, the fight died down. The attackers were getting beaten back. And Ray Corby, the lieutenant commanding the platoon who had just taken over several weeks prior, headed up to that tower. And he said, "You know, when I got to within sight of it, I thought, nobody can be alive in there. It was so destroyed. And then a little head popped up, and it was Jess Larochelle who said, "Sir, come on in, I'll provide covering fire." Ray went in and looked around and talked to Jess and said, "Okay, I'm going to replace you here." And Jess said, "Sir, don't do that. Don't impose this on somebody else. I've got it. I'm here. I'll stay." And Ray said, "Well, we can't reinforce you till later tonight, probably after dark." And Jess said, "I'll stay here. I've got it." He got reinforced later on that night, and then stayed there through the night, held the position, and the next morning was evacuated. Then he moved back with the rest of the platoon to Kandahar Airfield, and during the next day, Jess helped his team carry the body of his very good friend, Private Blake Williamson, onto the plane for his last trip back to Canada. Only after he had helped carry the body of his friend onto that plane and paid his last respects did Jess go to one of our combat medics and said, "Hey, I'm hurting a little bit." Well, hurting a little bit was an understatement. Jess had a detached retina in his right eye, and for anybody who's ever had one, you know that's one of the most painful things you can have. His eardrums were broken. He was concussed. He had a vertebrae broken in his neck, and his back was broken from being slammed into that mud wall. And despite that, when that occurred right at the front part of the fight, Jess still carried on. His valor was incredible. Jess was awarded the Star of Military Valor for his incredible courage, his incredible actions on that day. There are many of us who believe that a review of his citation and a review with the testimony of those who were there with him on that day would change that Star of Military Valor to Canada's Victoria Cross, none of which have been awarded since it was first made in 1993. We believe that the Victoria Cross might be the appropriate award for Jess Larochelle. There are others who wear the Star of Military Valor, who possibly could also be entitled to receive a Victoria Cross for their valor in the presence of the enemy. And whether that's Willie McDonald or Pat Towers or Rick Stacey or Sean Teal or any of the others, we believe that a fair and honest review, independent, should be announced by this government and take place. We believe this is good for Canada. People will serve our nation in the future based on how we treat our veterans now. We'll remember the proud history of standing up for Canada, of serving and sacrificing based on those awards and commendations. And we have a Victoria Cross to award, and we have not done it. And we think it would be appropriate to consider whether that award should be given right now to one of those Star of Military Valor recipients. We encourage the Government of Canada to take this unanimous consent motion, to vote for it completely, and to implement an independent review board for the Victoria Cross. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm now going to hand off to Madame Rochefort. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, General Hillier. La pétition E-6661, déposée aujourd'hui, ne demande pas au Parlement d'attribuer une médaille. Plutôt, elle demande un examen indépendant des décorations militaires décernées dans le cadre de la mission d'Afghanistan. Alors, il ne s'agit pas de rouvrir des dossiers du passé, mais de veiller à ce que lorsque de nouveaux éléments de preuve apparaissent, que notre système puisse en prendre considération. Alors aujourd'hui, je suis très heureuse et honorée de pouvoir être rejointe ici à Ottawa avec mon collègue Blake Richards et également des anciens combattants qui sont membres de Valor in the Presence of the Enemy, également avec l'organisme True Patriot Love, la Légion royale canadienne, le général Rick Hillier, d'autres parlementaires et la famille du soldat Jess Larochelle. Comme il a été mentionné, le Canada a créé sa propre croix de Victoria en 1993, mais elle n'a jamais été décernée. Et même, vu le fait qu'il y avait 40 000 personnes, 40 000 hommes et femmes qui ont servi en Afghanistan, nos alliés ont décerné leur plus haute distinction, mais le Canada ne l'a jamais fait. Et cette réalité, elle pèse sur de nombreux anciens combattants. Dans ma circonscription de Nipissing-Témiscamingue, les anciens combattants d'Afghanistan me disent que leur service n'est pas présent lorsqu'on a des journées de souvenirs ou des commémorations nationales. Et le cas du soldat de Jess Larochelle, de ma circonscription, est devenu dans un sens le symbole de cette préoccupation. Et pour moi, je trouve que c'est un moment opportun. Avant Noël, j'ai été très marquée par les propos du président des États-Unis, Donald Trump, lorsqu'il a mentionné que que les combattants du Canada n'étaient pas présents lors des combats. C'était les soldats américains. Alors, il a parlé des soldats de l'OTAN et des soldats du Canada. Alors, pour moi, c'est le moment opportun, vu ces commentaires-là. Nous devrions être en mesure de montrer comment le Canada reconnaît le courage et le sacrifice au plus haut niveau. Et comme l'a mentionné le général Hillier, il s'agit alors de la croix de Victoria. La vaillance, elle ne s'efface pas avec le temps. Alors, notre responsabilité de la reconnaître non plus ne doit pas s'effacer avec le temps. Alors, je remercie de votre présence ce matin et je passe la parole à mon collègue. I think, Blaine, you are next, monsieur. Je vais aller juste ici.
Thank you so much, MP Pauline Rochefort. Blaine McLeod is my name, MLA for Lumsden Morse in the province of Saskatchewan. It is my honor to be able to be here today to encourage the adoption of this petition and the motion that will come forward unanimously. December 3rd, 2025, we were the first province to bring forward a motion unanimously accepted in our legislature recommending to the Government of Canada that an independent review committee be stood up to review those cases where the Victoria Cross medal, minted in 1993, never given out in our country, that review committee would look at the files of individuals that could potentially with the evidence gathered over time, be up for review for the military Victoria Cross Valor Medal. I want to go back just a little bit and tie it into my hometown of Cairns, Saskatchewan, where there is a street renamed in 1995 in my little one-horse town, Milne VC Avenue. And as that happened in our town, I was not aware of the story. And I had to go and do some research and look back. Arthur William Milne was in the Battle of Vimy Ridge, sacrificed his life that day, saved many, many soldiers as a result of crawling across open ground, 100 yards or better, taking out one pillbox, bombing and capturing that gun, and then reforming of the line, crawled again to another pillbox, was successful in eliminating that one as well, sustained injury that day from his wounds, and died, saving countless lives in the process. Awarded posthumously the Military Cross not more than 60 days later. Since the end of, and I would have not known that story, and I'll just go back a little bit, I would not have known that story if that change in terms of signage in our hometown hadn't happened. I looked it up. I did some research, not in those days from the internet, but actual digging out and finding the story in regards to him. To this day, the town, or the farm where he worked as a farmhand prior to enlisting, maintains a plaque in his remembrance and a beautiful entrance to their farm honoring Private Milne. He walked 40 kilometers to the city of Moose Jaw to enlist, first in the 46th Battalion, and later joined the Expeditionary Force, 16th Expeditionary Force in that battle at Vimy Ridge. That story spoke to my heart of what he did, what he accomplished, the lives that he saved. More than 80 years have passed since the last Victoria Cross was awarded to a Canadian soldier. And with the help of Premier Moe in our province, we got on board with the initiative. He has been a tremendous force in terms of seeing this across the line, and I trust it will happen. But Premier Moe encouraged me to be here today, to be part of this initiative, and with the backing of a delegation from our province, including, as already mentioned by General Hillier, Willie MacDonald. His heroics that day, or those days in Afghanistan, are I won't go into the detail. He would say it's not about me, it's about the team. And I find that so often with those that fight and have fought for the country of Canada. It's not about me, it's about the team, it's about all of us. It's about doing my job and being there where I'm needed. And so it's with great honor that I'm here today to bring forward this initiative, helped along by a great team from Saskatchewan, Ed Stanowski, Jamie Sinclair, Cliff Walker, and those that were part of that event that we had in Saskatchewan where we passed the motion, Willie MacDonald in our presence as well. We met in the Premier's office, and one thing came up as well is that in our legislature we have a room where our caucus meets. Room 218 is we know it as, and along the wall of honor in that room is a shadow box that measures 2 feet by 2 feet, roughly, of all the identified Saskatchewan individuals who were awarded the Victoria Cross. Their medals, replicas of them, and a picture, photo, and the citation for them. And in the Premier's office that day, we talked about that, about what those mean and remembrance that is for the province of Saskatchewan. And the request came forward from General Cliff Walker saying, it's time we renamed that room and call it, I'll get the name right here, the Hall of Valor. And that is indeed going to happen. A week from today, we'll have a reception in the Hall of Valor where the name will be officially unveiled and will forever there be for those that come after generations to say why and understand and learn and recognize that. And just saying at this point in time, there's plenty of room for more of those Victoria Cross honorees to be added to that wall of honor. So with that, I would say thank you to all those who have supported me on this journey as well. It's been just an honor of a lifetime to be engaged and involved with this, and I trust that we're going to see a real solid acceptance and move forward with this initiative in the very, very near future. Thank you so much for having me today.
So my name is Blake Richards. I'm the Conservative Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs, and I'll start with this. I don't think it's every day that you go to a press conference with a veteran Conservative MP, a Saskatchewan Party MLA, and a newly elected Liberal MP all standing for the same cause. And I think that speaks to exactly how important this issue is. This is about, this is not about politics. This is about accomplishing something for the men and women who've served this country, those who have given their lives for this country, and those who have, shown the most outstanding bravery and heroism. And, I think whenever there's an opportunity for us to stand together and recognize those individuals, that's something we will all always want to do. And I don't think I can lay out the case any better than General Hillier did in terms of, looking at since 1993 when that Victoria Cross was created, the fact that there has been none awarded to a Canadian. You look at Afghanistan, I mean, General Hillier spoke really well to Jess Larochelle's case. I would just add this, you think about the injuries, General Hillier mentioned them, but, you think about the hockey playoffs are about to start. We consider these hockey players heroes when they lose a couple of teeth and carry on, or separate a shoulder and carry on through the playoffs. Think about what Jess Larochelle did. Right? I mean, think about that. Detached retina, blown eardrums, concussion, broken back, broken neck. And he carried on, and who knows the difference. We'll never know exactly the difference he made that day, but we do know that he was a hero, an absolute hero. And that deserves to be recognized in the most, in its highest form. And I'm sure there are many other examples. You think about Canada. We served in some of the most dangerous parts of Afghanistan. We carried out some of the most difficult combat. And you look at many of our ally countries, numerous of their highest military honors were given out. Canada didn't see our Victoria Cross given out during that mission, and obviously there's a need for this military honors review board to be created. So I'm hopeful that this is, one of the steps towards that. I want to thank, several people who have been a part of getting this to this point. I think certainly Bruce Moncourt, Valor in the Presence of the Enemy, we'll hear from him in a second, I believe. But Bruce has been absolutely relentless in championing this and moving this forward. I think if you think about someone who is the appropriate person to be a voice for our veterans in this country. I think almost all veterans in this country would agree. General Hillier is that voice. And for him to lend his name and support to this initiative means the world, I know, to many of our men and women who have served this country. To Pauline for championing this petition, to the provinces, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and others that have brought forward motions to encourage this to happen. The Senate of Canada, of course, passing a unanimous motion there, encouraging this to happen. There's one last step that needs to happen, and that's for the Government of Canada to actually take the action that's needed. Pardon me, I want to back up. There is one other individual that deserves some mention today as well. He's not here with us, but Aaron O'Toole, one of my former Conservative colleagues, who brought forward a unanimous consent motion on this very thing in the House of Commons about 4 years ago. Unfortunately, at the time, it was rejected by the government at the time, but we're hopeful, obviously, that there'll be another opportunity to see this happen in the near future. That's the last step that's needed here. One thing that I can say is that I will be there to do everything I can to ensure that happens. I believe we have the commitment of everyone here on stage, and I'm sure there are many others who will back that. We just have to continue to push, drive forward. This is all positive. The petition, the motions in the legislatures in the Senate, these things are pushing this forward in the right ways. The last step and the most important step, of course, now is we do need the government to take the action. I know that all of us will continue to push to ensure that's the case, and I for one can say I certainly will not stop until that mission is completed, and I know that I can share that same commitment on behalf of those on the stage here today as well. So, thank you very much, and it's an honor to be able to stand and support the men and women who have served this country and continue to serve this great country.
Good morning, everyone. In 2006, I was shot 3 times, and I had 5% of my brain removed. And I had to relearn how to read, write, walk, and talk. And that was probably one of the hardest times in my life. I lost some faculties that you and I take for granted. And when I was doing my occupational therapy, my physical therapy, and all my friends started coming back from the tour, I heard a story about this guy that did this incredible thing. And it was Jess's story. And I thought to myself, well, he's got to get the Victoria Cross. I mean, it has to happen. I couldn't imagine it not happening. And I'm not denigrating the Star of Military Valor, because it in itself is an incredible honor. And I am so proud that he got that medal as well. But to me and to everyone else, it just felt like it was a missed opportunity. And we wish that it could have resulted in the first Canadian Victoria Cross. And this medal wouldn't just be for Jess and his family. It would be for all of us. And we would all feel like we earned that medal together with him. I started Valor 6 years ago, and one of the first people I called was General Hillier. And he didn't say any, he was on board right away. And this is a CDS that literally took my call and said, yeah, let's do this. And we started Valor. And I've been fighting for 6 years for this, trying to get basically to this point. And I can't tell you how much this means to me, to all the people that have helped, all the governments and have supported us. And we've lost some people along the way. Jess tragically passed away from his injuries 3 years ago. A member of the media just passed away, Stephen Thorne. He published the first piece in the Legion magazine. And I just want to say that I wish we could have told him about this, and we were doing this before he lost his battle with cancer. And there's others too that have left us, that have championed this cause. And I just want to thank everybody that's helped and everyone that has done everything they can. I want to thank all of our followers, all of the people on our social medias that share these stories and share our content and have gotten this out and talked to their MPs and everything like that. And I also want to recognize that, as before I go, is that the President of Finland is here and today, and he has a soldier. They have a soldier in World War II who's the White Death. He was a sniper, and he killed over 500 Soviets in the war between Finland and the Soviet Union during 39 to 40. And he got the highest medal that Finland gives out. And we have our best sniper in this country right here, Francis Pegamagabo, who killed 378 Germans in World War I and captured another 300. And I feel like the numbers are obviously comparable. And I think because of his Indigenous heritage, that there might have been a problem in giving him the Victoria Cross based on the social biases of the day. And I'm asking that the government look into not just Jess, but the 40 other names that we've identified of the other soldiers from going back to World War I. And we're hoping that we can rectify the valor unrewarded. And so I'll leave that with you. I thank you so much for being here, and I think we can take a few questions.
Bruce, I'm just wondering, and anyone can do this, but since you've been on the project for 6 years now, I'm wondering if you can maybe contextualize why there seems to be resistance from the government to this. You know, of course, as was mentioned earlier, the petition 4 years ago that was taken unanimously and rejected. Like, why does there seem to be resistance from the government on this?
We got a new prime minister a year ago, and he has, about that year ago, there was talk of the 51st state and tariffs, and it literally was like night and day. And all of a sudden, our social media numbers started exploding to where we're getting 4 million people a month on our sites. And it just is a shift in the nationalist Canadian movement. And that basically has turned us all around in the last year.
Okay, so that's now. I'm just asking why has there been resistance to this in the past?
Yeah, so I guess the resistance before was it just takes time to do these things, and we're glad that it's not there now. But I honestly have to say that it was disheartening. I'll say that it was disheartening when we got those, but we kept fighting. And the Taliban have the Afghans have a saying, and the Taliban do, is you have the clock, we have the time, and we're just going to keep. We're going to keep at this. So, and we're just very grateful that, you know, there has been a shift in the government from even a year ago or before, that they are now embracing this. The reason that I could say that back then is, and the reason they gave us in the response to the first petition was they were just happy with the system the way it was. And so now we're showing them that that's not a good enough answer.
Bruce, maybe if I could just add a comment to that, because everything Bruce said is absolutely correct. Here's what I would say to that, too. We're Canadians, and we are not good at recognizing people across our country. Most of our heroes end up with feet of clay for some reason, and we don't tend to take their stories, to use them to inspire all of us to be better, and to use that as a representation of all 40+ million Canadians right across this great nation from coast to coast to coast. I'll just give you the examples. If Jess Larochelle was American, if Willie McDonald was American, if Rick Stacey was an American, we would have had movies. We would have had Zero Dark Dirty, and we would have had a whole bunch of other movies. And you know, you look at those, if Smokey Smith had been an American, we would have had Saving Private Ryan on Juno Beach, you know, or somewhere in Italy. And we're not very good at doing this, and we tend to leave it to a bureaucracy, and that's, I think, what we have done. And I think that the leadership that's present now can actually change that dynamic. I think this is good for Canada. I think it's good for Canadians. This is not just good for Jess Larochelle. If indeed an independent review board was formed and made a decision that Jess deserved it, or any of the others that were considered deserved the Victoria Cross, this, I think, would be absolutely appropriate recognition and would do a job to say, hey, we as Canadians, you know, we believe in our country, we serve our country, and when it's required, we sacrifice for our country. That inspires all of us You know, you talk about standing on the shoulders of giants. These men were giants, and we need to be able to tell their story to Canadians, and that's just another good reason to go and do this. But, you know, sometimes the fact that we're Canadian and that's good enough plays here, and it's not in this case.
If I can just add as well, as someone who was actually in the House of Commons for that, you know, perhaps what I should explain how a unanimous consent motion works in the House of Commons in case there's people that aren't aware. Essentially what happens is someone stands up, they move their motion. In this case, Aaron O'Toole, as I mentioned earlier, he stood up, he moved the motion to create a Military Honours Review Board, and all it takes is for someone to say no. And it's not a unanimous consent, obviously. The time there were a number of Liberal MPs that said no. It went on unexplained at the time, really, in terms of why. And I think what I should say is it really boils down to this. It's the will. It's the will to do it, right? For all of us as politicians, if there's a will to get something done, there's a way to accomplish it. And as has been mentioned, there is a new Prime Minister since that time. You know, I'm hopeful, and I think everyone here is hopeful that with a new Prime Minister, perhaps there will be a change in the approach to this. And you know, of course, until it happens, it hasn't happened, and we all will push to see that happen. This is an opportunity, I believe, because there is a new Prime Minister who's come in. There is an opportunity here. If you know, and if he isn't willing to do this, then you know we wait for the next Prime Minister, unfortunately, and that's the sad part. So we really have to hope, and you have certainly my commitment, and I believe those of everyone on this stage, that we will do everything we can to push the government to ensure that the will is there and that the action does get taken.
General, really quickly, for Canadians who might not understand the process, I'm wondering if you can quickly run through how military decorations are awarded and what discussions go into that, and maybe some of your insight as to why there hasn't been a Canadian Victoria Cross honored up until now.
Yeah, so let me just go right back to Jess, and we've used this story as a centerpiece of why the Victoria Cross Independent Review and why now, and I would use that. So what happened was on the 14th of October 2006, Jess was in this battle and performed with great valor. And valor is a key word, we believe, in the consideration for and then potential awarding of the Victoria Cross. Valor in the presence of the enemy was just displayed. His citation then was, his actions were seen by numerous people. Citation written up by his platoon commander, Ray Corby, written up by the company commander, and then finally reviewed by the battle group commander, Lieutenant General, retired now, sitting right here, Omer Lavoie, who then put his comments to it, recommended it for the Star of Military Valor, and brought it forward. It then ended up at the Canadian Forces Honours and Awards Committee, so chaired by the Chief of Defence Staff, me at the time, with the senior commanders around the table. We considered that, and we debated with Jess Larochelle whether or not it was Star of Military Valor or Victoria Cross. But what we had in front of us to go through truly was two-paragraph citation, and we were trying to extrapolate from that the details of it. And I'll tell you this was late October 2006. We were new at war. We had not been in a fight of this intensity and this duration since Korea, and we were new at this business. And secondly, I joke a little bit about this, but there's some truth in it. We kind of felt, and I kind of felt like the French figure skating judge from the infamous Olympics, where she saved her points just for when her own countrymen and women came through. And we were saying, Jess Larochelle is incredible. This is incredible courage, incredible actions, maybe something much stronger. And then, you know, how will we be able to sort of do what's right there? So we made the decision as Honours and Awards Committee then to recommend to the Government of Canada Honours and Awards Committee for final decision by the Governor-General, Her Excellency. Several weeks later, I was back in Afghanistan, and I went for a walk with Omer Lavoie, and we kind of chatted about this, and I said, you know, Homer, we were so close to Victoria Cross, we were close to Star of Military Valor, and at the end we decided there, and I'm still not sure that we got it right. Now, as I get that richness of detail, the fact that he volunteered, the fact that he was so badly wounded, the fact that he was up there by himself for such a long period of time, and the fact that he turned down being relieved in that position so somebody else didn't have to carry that burden, and the fact that he still went and did that last honor to Private Blake Williamson of carrying his body onto the airplane, all of with those terrible injuries, I think that we did err. We did get it wrong. And I think that if we reviewed that with that knowledge, with the understanding of his battle buddies of what had occurred in that fight, we would have fallen onto the side of the Victoria Cross. There are perhaps others like that. You know, and like I say, Rick Stacey, who fought over a period of 8 hours, leading over a column that was stretched out for about a kilometer, under attack from the front, under attack from the rear, under attack from the flanks. He gets vehicles recovered. He gets medical support into some of his team members who are injured, possibly dying. He gets into the firefight himself, killing some of the Taliban and protecting part of the organization, and then gets them moving out after about 8 hours. Those stories, like I said, if we were Americans, they would be movies, and just maybe now that honor system should review. But what we don't have is a review process. What we don't have is a review process, and that's what we're asking the government to do here. Our friends and allies all do this. You've probably seen President Obama, President Biden, or President Trump putting the Medal of Honor around the neck of, you know, some 99-year-old veteran from World War II or an 85-year-old from Korea or somebody from Vietnam, because they have a process where they go back and look at cases which are obviously wrong and then reassess and decide Medal of Honor or not, and they have decided. Australia did it with a 19-year-old sailor from 1942 who died defending his ship. Other nations have done it. The British have done it. We were told initially that, you know, there's a 5-year window from the time the action occurs till the Victoria Cross should be awarded. After that, if it's not, it cannot be. So look, when did that rule get implemented? Well, King Edward VII did it in 1905. So, you know, how much have we changed since 1905? Everything, right? It's our medal. It's our award. Yeah. We can make the rules to ensure that we do what's right for Canada, for 41 million Canadians, and for those young men and women who serve with such valor and inspire us all. So there is a process. There are all kinds of things, but people are in that process, and of course, people behave in a manner based on the knowledge that they have and the situation at the time. Make the best decision they possibly can. Now we just need to be able to review the ones that seem like they should be reviewed.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci. C'est ce qui met fin à cette conférence de presse.
Merci.
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 Thank you, folks.
I had Robert on my mind. I was going to say Robert.
That's just fine. Just fine.